Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the TVGB Vivestream. My name is Jake Sapir. I'm one of the editors over at thatvideogameblog.com, and I'm here to show you the best and worst the Vive has to offer. Today we're looking at a game called Guns and Stories. It's an Old West shooting gallery sort of thing. I'm going on easy mode because, frankly, you've seen me play these games before. You know I'm not good at them. To get myself a little acquainted with the menu and how things work and everything. Give me a sec, I'll figure it out eventually. There we go. Most of the room is just decoration. You can see the guns in the background there, which are pretty awesome. So what you might have noticed already is that this is not a very realistic Old West shooting gallery sort of game, and that's probably just as well. Because, well, there's a lot of shooting gallery games available for the Vive, and this one manages to stay somewhat ahead of the curve by having a lot more personality than most, as we'll start to see. You can see what the guns look like here briefly before I quickly put that thing away for no good reason. And you saw them on the wall too. They're a little wacky, but in a cool way. It almost tricks you a little bit because the menu area looks relatively realistic, and then you see the guns and everything. So we're starting off, we're going right into story mode. You know, no need to mess around. Let's just dive right into everything. Well, first I have to read the description and then figure out how to select a level. But after that, I was ready to go straight in. I had to point to one of the floating things below the figurine to start the level. And then loading, because it's a VR game. At least on the loading screens here we get some gameplay tips. Can beat back enemy projectiles. I've never seen that in a game before, let alone real life. Dodging, of course, is a lot more common in games like this. Like how the chalkboard guy actually had a headset. And now we have some popcorn while we listen to an introduction to the story.
Oh, but God almighty, how I loved it. You really can't imagine. Everybody here could find work to their liking. It was here that I met.
Yeah, it's a little slow, but it's part of what gives the game its charm, so it's worth paying attention.
But most importantly,
I'll stop talking over it now.
The safest town in all of the Wild West. Until they showed up. These outlaws were
yeah, somehow I don't think it stayed that way for very long. And sure enough.
Bastards. Their leader went by the name of Fat Joe. In his 30s, this mammoth weighed more than a herd of bison.
I wonder why they called him that.
He was used to getting everything he ever wanted.
Man, I'm glad it's a flat image and I don't have to see this guy's face up close in VR. Because no one wants to see that.
The stench, oh lordy. God forbid.
So you're saying he's fat. Speaking of which, popcorn. I'd forgotten it was there for a moment.
I started hating him way before that.
Sadly, I couldn't drop or throw popcorn. I wanted to throw popcorn at the screen, but the grip buttons would just skip the video.
Along with her, he took all the other women of Shittown. It was then, and I understood.
Along with her, he took the SmackDown Women's Championship. Sorry, that's a wrestling joke for the 5 people watching this who might understand that. Let's be honest, there are at best 5 people watching this period, but I digress.
And so it began.
We start now with a gun, but with a bottle and a cup, which sadly we can't do anything with. Seems like a missed opportunity, but what do I know?
And a bottle right there.
Yeah, the bottle you can't do anything with, sadly, but what shows up on screen is meant to go with the story that the grandpa's telling, so it makes sense for it to be there. Also, I believe, while he's telling the story, he's holding a bottle. Tried to use the bottle to block the shot, realized that probably wouldn't work very well. So honestly, I never gave it another chance, so maybe it would have.
No victim, no crime, kid.
I don't think that's quite how it goes, but close enough.
Grandson, that day my heater lit 'em up.
Now the shooting means, and you can see very shooting gallery. Not too original gameplay-wise, but the environments are neat. And the guns get pretty interesting, as you'll see later on when we get to the second level.
Way back when I was 68. Move to your right. Keep on going.
So this guy's obviously quite old now, which makes me wonder If this is what the world was like when he was younger, what's the world of the game like now? I guess we saw the office, or the house or lodge or wherever where the menu is, and it didn't look all that different, so probably not that different. Dodging is always a little difficult in these games because, you know, you expect the game to know exactly where different parts of your body are, but it doesn't. Mainly the top of your head. You know, it can't necessarily tell what size of a head you have.
And that's exactly the reason why you had them 7 kids.
Yeah, those are some good and fast reflexes I've got.
Because of them cat-like reflexes.
This is on easy mode, I'll tell you. And there's stuff flying at me everywhere. Only because we're on easy mode, Grandpa. Tried this one, that bouncing the bullets around it. Kind of worked. I do wonder if you could ever actually deflect a bullet back at the person who shot it, Jedi style. I never really tried too hard to do that. I was a little busy with trying to get the bad guys, but, you know, you do what you can. Try to aim down the sights a little bit. Excuse me. Try to aim down the sights a little bit because that can be pretty helpful. But I learned pretty quick that this is not that kind of game, at least not on easy mode. I'm sure it's like super necessary later on. But for now, I found it just wasn't really worth it.
You said my favorite revolver, not revolvers.
Sadly, the barrel is not red hot.
Look at me, kid. I have 2 hands, don't I? That means 2 pistols, kid.
Now we get 2 guns, and now things get a little crazier. Yeah, look at those guns. Amount of ammo has no limit and reloading is not required. So in other words, it's just shoot 'em up. You know what this game reminds me a lot of is Mad Dog McCree. It's like a modern version of Mad Dog McCree. Because that game almost had more personality, just because personality was literally all it had. I would love to see a recreation of that. I'd love to see more cheesy FMV games. I know we've had modern FMV games, but they're a lot more serious and professional. I'd love to see some classic style cheesy ones, and or ones that involve light guns like Mad Dog McCree. In the meantime, intentionally silly like this is also quite fun. You probably notice there's no health bar, you just sort of go by how red the screen gets. This is level 1, so I didn't have too much trouble with that, which unfortunately also meant it was kind of boring. As you can see, we're only not quite halfway done, and now we're halfway done. And it felt like I'd been playing for a while when I reached that point, honestly. It did not feel super fun. But I kept going because, you know, I was interested to see what would happen next. I wanted to see what would happen in the next stage. And I was interested to see what else the characters would say, and that's sort of what keeps me playing. Yeah, those guys are real tough. You kind of have to at least try to aim down the sights for them, at least when you're using this weapon. When you're using an automatic weapon, you sort of pretty much just spray and pray. As you'll see soon enough. Dynamite, why not?
Enemy to your left, kid.
I mentioned Mad Dog McCree specifically, really being, you know, a shooting gallery type game. It's reminiscent of any of your arcade shooters. Which is fine, honestly, for what it is. I mean, I've played games that try to be more like a full FPS in VR, and they're very cool, but they also are a little, they take something out of you, because you gotta, you know, keep track of things all over you. You gotta know when to move around, you gotta find hiding places. It's a lot, and it's hard to manifest well in VR without being overwhelming. That's why you see a lot more games like this. I believe, excuse me, a long time ago I think I covered a game like that on the show, or at least I tried to. I might have found that the footage didn't work. That happens a lot, although it's been better recently. If not, I'll do one maybe next time, and I'll show you guys what I mean. And how difficult it can be.
Coming into my town.
That was an interesting sound. I have tons of lost recordings, so to speak, of the Vivestream. videos that just didn't work for one reason or another. Either there were audio problems, or the game didn't load properly, or the footage was too choppy, or just didn't have much to say about the game. I sort of have that stuff stockpiled. I'd like to one day put together like a compilation of it, but honestly that would take more effort than the normal videos do, because I have to go through and cut bits out. And while I'd love to say that I do these as a full-time job, it's quite the opposite. I do them whenever I get a chance. So my release schedule hasn't exactly been normal lately, but I hope you're enjoying what I do put out. I just couldn't hit that guy in the window. Guys in the window are always tough. And this is shooting dynamite out of the air. You know, typical normal everyday thing you sometimes have to do.
Like a pencil playing the banjo. And they lived happily ever after.
Grandpa, what about Charlotte and Joe?
Oh, all right. Just hand me that
Yeah,
bottle, kid.
seems like there's still stuff to be told in this story. I did not do well, but like I said, I'm not good at these games. That's why I was on easy mode in the first place. Let's go into the next level, see what kind of environment we have, and hopefully unlock a new weapon. First in story, though. No popcorn this time.
Away from the town I called home. And before I knew it, these bastards from Joe's clan attacked me.
And
Not
what
Joe's
happened then,
clan.
Grandpa?
I tracked Big Joe's fat footsteps to the sulfur pit mine.
So I was hoping that this would be like a moving stage, like we'd stay on the minecart, but sadly no, we're just moving into a set position. Which is really a shame.
Full of enemies who kept the old man at gunpoint.
Like
But
the
as you can see, we got a different sort of setup this time. It looked like it was going to be pretty simple. You got the sides and whoa. Honestly, that many guys isn't too bad when they're not shooting back.
Come get some. Come get yours.
And you'll see even here at level 2 of chapter 1, I started having a lot of trouble because, again, I'm bad at this. Starts off fine.
Enemy to your left, kid.
But you know, as I'm sure you guys probably already know because it's a pretty well-established thing by this point in pop culture, dual-wielding guns like this never made any sense. Certainly not trying to hit 2 different people at once. You just can't aim that way, it's impossible. And while this game doesn't necessarily use realistic physics, it's still realistic enough that you can't really aim where you aren't looking. There's no, like, significant auto-aim. It's a VR game, they don't generally have those. Though, personally, I think that should be an option. Just, you know, have the bullets curve a little bit towards the enemy. I think that would make some of these games a lot more immersive, a lot easier to play, a lot easier to get into and immerse yourself into. I guess that means the same thing as being more immersive, but shh. I don't know if you saw a little bit ago the guys with the miniguns. Fortunately, they don't fire as fast as the ones in hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades, or we'd be filming a very different episode because I'd have died already. And the episode would be over. Cool dynamite effects, though. Dance around to the music while I wait for more bad guys to come. Gun dancing, it's a thing, look it up. See, there we go. More miniguns. I'm not sure what I got that achievement or bonus for. I definitely got hit in this level by this point. Pretty sure I even got hit by the minigun. And later on I hit other guys with miniguns without even letting them fire, and that didn't come up, so I have no idea what it's for.
And y'all call this shooting?
Wish I had a melee weapon to go after the melee guys when they get to me.
Let me show you how it's done.
Yes, show them how it's done. So at this point the gun started going rapid fire, and I was like, could I always have done that? Then the game explained it to me, as you'll see. It's a really clever bit. Again, part of this game's charm that helps it stand out in the pack. At least I think that's where it happened. Yeah, no, this is where they started going auto fire. And again, I was a little confused. As you can imagine. I was looking at my guns like, could you always have done that?
Really shoot
Like they were going to answer me.
No, revolvers couldn't. But these two .45 caliber babies sure could.
And now we have our Uzi guns. Because that's very fitting for the Old West. I like the design though, honestly. I like the gauge, I like the way that the ammo clip is shaped. I like the gold top, it's cool.
Triple kill.
Triple kill. What is this, Unreal Tournament? That reminds me, actually, speaking of classic first-person shooters, another game that I want to check out, and maybe one that I'll do next time, since it is a full-on FPS, is a VR version of Quake 2 that someone put together. It sounds pretty awesome. The very first game I ever played in VR was Quake 1. This was years and years and years ago. Very, very early days of VR. It was basically just a screen up in your face. But I still remember that, and I've been looking to recreate that experience with modern VR. Unfortunately, while there apparently are ways to play Quake 1 in modern VR, I couldn't get them to work, but Quake 2 I might be able to do. So look forward to that one next time. Yeah, again, I feel like these stages go on a little too long. We're just over halfway done here. And it's going to go on for a little bit. So with these guns, you hold them down, then you let go to reload. Which seems intuitive, but also actually feels kind of weird. You get used to it eventually. The thing is, if you're not watching or paying very close attention, you don't know when it's fully reloaded, when you can stop waiting. So, one thing that I should note as I start doing even more terribly here is that I usually don't play these games with headphones on. Things just get tangled, or the latency is bad if I'm using wireless ones. I find it's usually not worth it. As you can see, when you're about to die, the game slows things down and shows you exactly where the enemies are, which makes it a lot easier to get back in. I don't know if the harder difficulty levels do that, but easy mode does, fortunately. Stop me from dying there. But I was going to say, I don't use headphones, which means I can't hear where people are coming from, and that makes a game like this a lot harder. Not to say that I wouldn't suck anyway, but, you know. I wouldn't suck quite as much if I could hear where people were coming from. It's basically playing with mono audio. But frankly, this thing is so hard to get set up sometimes that I don't want to add an extra step to it, so I make do. But yeah, if you guys are thinking, you know, why can't you hear that they're on the left? Well, it's because everything was on the left. As in, the computer was to my left, and so were the speakers. Yeah, I nearly died a couple times here, honestly. Sometimes there are guys like over there which you just don't notice until there's no one else to worry about. And then you're like, who could possibly still be hitting me? Oh, those guys. The waiting to reload is a killer with these guys. Fortunately, it doesn't take long, but you gotta adjust your strategy for it, because with the previous gun, while it was slower, you didn't have to worry about reloading. You could always be shooting. Pros and cons. So I don't think there's a way necessarily to switch the guns, or if there is, they don't tell you until later. So even if I wanted to use the other ones, and I didn't necessarily, this was how it was going to be. One of each might have worked well, actually. But, yeah, it's possible in the arcade mode there's an option for that, but I didn't see an option here in story mode.
Except one. Oh, yeah. I killed him, too. And as I have told you before...
I really thought there was going to be like a guy who would pop up when he said that, but sadly there was not.
And, as a matter of fact, I'm late for my poker game.
No, Grandpa, don't leave. I'm already on my way out to get you
Yes,
that
they
next
all
ball.
died and lived happily ever after. Kid wants to hear more of these stories. I don't blame him. So, Guns and Stories. How do we rate this one? It's pretty fun as these games go. It's worth a try if you like shooters in VR. If you like the shooting galleries, you could absolutely do worse than this one. I wouldn't buy it for full price. I didn't. I got it through the Vive subscription service, which I actually recommend if you're a Vive owner. I'm not being paid to say that. I just think it's cool. Anyway, feel free to check out more content at thatvideogameblog.com and send us your suggestions for future games to play on the Vivestream. I've already got one in mind, as I mentioned earlier. I leave you now to the sounds of me taking off the headset and ending the recordings.